Good morning, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay and see me okay. Had a few problems with my camera this morning, but I think we're doing okay. Yeah, welcome today to this digital forum, first one of 2024. Can we believe it? And as you'll see from the theme today, we're talking about non-target species. We've got a few themed forums this year, and this being the first one of it. So hopefully you can all enjoy that today. I'm Natalie Bungay. I'm going to be your host, keeping everybody in line, making sure everything goes smoothly, and just giving you some instructions for today and the event, which I'll go through in a moment. Yeah, I hope we're all doing well and getting through the year nicely. Just a few reminders on CPD. So we've got 3 points for today. Everybody that's registered, that will be updated for you on your accounts. You'll be registered, and also basis prompt. If you're watching any of these, if you decide to have a look at any of these presentations later on or share them with any other colleagues, then it's just something you'll need to go and register for yourself afterwards. And also, if there's a few of you maybe sat around a laptop or a computer and only one of you have registered, then those who are viewing today's forum will also need to just go and register your points yourself. But any problems with that, then just get in touch with us, and we'll help you get those points registered. We have a chat section today. So again, I think most of you have probably been to forums and webinars before, and you know how all this works now, but just for those that maybe might be new, we have a chat section and a Q&A section. Now, for the chat, I can see lots of people saying good morning and saying hello, so that's great, perfect, use it for that, as well as if you have any technical issues, so whether it be our cameras or sound, or if you're struggling to sort of hear or see anything, then put it in the chat section. I've got my colleague Lauren in the background that try and give you some pointers or advice on how to correct that. A lot of the time it's turn it off and turn it back on again, but hopefully we're all can see us and sound is good. And then the Q&A section, so there's another button, bottom of your screen, right to your screen, depending on what technology you're using, but a Q&A. So what that's for, that's where once the presenters have done with their talk, with their presentation, if you have any questions for them about the subject, then pop it in the Q&A section. Now, the chat, I'm not going to be keeping an eye on it necessarily. So if you do put any questions in there, I won't see them. So please just make sure that you use the Q&A bit for questions to the speaker, and also questions to me if you want to. But yeah, if we can keep them to the presentations, that would be amazing. And we'll go through that once we've finished off. So yeah, make sure you get those questions in there early. If we do run out of time for any reason regarding questions, then we can always get those answers out to you afterwards, or type them in the section where you've put that question. You better see it in words rather than us speaking. Okay, so chat section for any problems and just general chat with other people on the forum, but for questions to our presenters, use the Q&A section. Okay, great. Today I just want to quickly say thank you to our sponsors, Palsys today. All of our events, you know, we can't do this without the support of them, so really appreciate that. We'll have John Stewart on later from Palsys talking about bats, driving you batty. So like I said, today's forum is all about non-target species and what we can do to, you know, obviously prevent the unnecessary interaction with them and protect them, and do what we need to do to make sure we're doing our jobs professionally and responsibly. Just in terms of the agenda, I'll just quickly run over it. So again, to give people more opportunity to pop in today, we've got 199, nearly 200 participants today. So just give them a couple more minutes to carry on joining. The agenda, so we've got Darren Tansley from Essex Wildlife Trust up first. He'll be talking about wildlife recovery east, and it's sort of the mink eradication and water vole success. So a bit about that in a moment from Darren. And then we have John on afterwards at 10:20 about bats, driving you batty. We'll have a comfort break at 5 to 11, so just an opportunity to grab a coffee or a snack, whichever, or both if you need. And we'll be back on at 11:05. We'll then have Dave Archer, so he's going to be talking about how to avoid trapping non-targets, which is obviously really important. Some tips on that, and again, you know, we can get lots of conversation going hopefully. And then at 11:50 we have Olivia Macy from the Natural England, the Wildlife Incident Investigation Scheme, so talking about how that works, any investigations they've had. And yeah, I think it should be particularly interesting because we talk about the WIS scheme, I think for short we call it, but yeah, the Wildlife Incident Investigation Scheme. But yeah, do we actually know much about what happens? So yeah, Olivia will be talking to us about that later. And then just to finish us off, we'll have Ian Andrew, our CEO, just talking about the association news and some industry updates. And we'll be finishing off at 12:30. So make sure you stick around with us and get involved, get those questions out there. And again, if after the event something comes up and you think, actually, I didn't ask something I wanted to, then you know where to get in touch with us. technical@bbca.org.uk if you have anything afterwards that you want to discuss. Last thing on that as well is that we'll be sending out a feedback form afterwards. So I've just read out the agenda, things that we're covering. We're doing various things during the year. We still maybe have some spaces for some of our forums and topics and discussions. So if you can give us some feedback on how today went, of course, and what you thought of the content, but also some ideas of what you would like to see us presenting on, or what speakers you'd like us to get into really talk to you about different subjects. So yeah, let us know. We want to make sure we're covering the things that you want to hear about. Just seeing on the chat there, we've got people from all over the country and the world by the looks of it. So the UK and Northern Ireland and Dublin and Lebanon even. So yeah, it's fantastic. We've got 209 with us now. The last couple of things, so just PestEx, we've got that around the corner, 13th and 14th of March. Can you believe it? Have them every 2 years, and when it comes around again, it's always, yeah, crazy to think how quickly time goes. But if you're not already registered for PestEx, you can pop on our website. I think Lauren will also hopefully pop a little link in the chat section if anybody on here hasn't already registered for PestEx. Down in London at the Excel Centre, really looking forward to it. Lots of exhibitors, distributors and various other stands and people to go and see and talk to. Loads of CPD to be had, lots of presentations, technical presentations. We've got panel discussions and all sorts of things, behavioural resistance and insect resistance and various bits and pieces. So yeah, go and have a look and get registered if you're not already. Okay, I think that's about it. Nothing else to really go through with you. Everybody's here, the sound seems fine, and we're all good to go. So if I could ask Darren, if you want to turn your camera on and show yourself. That'd be amazing. There you are. Hi,
yeah,
Darren.
that's a bit of a shock after you on screen for a while. I expect.
Honestly, I don't know how 8 minutes I've been doing my introductions. I don't know how I managed to say so many things, but no, listen, they're bored of me, so let's I'll leave you to it, and if you can share your screen, and yeah, let's talk about water life recovery east. Fabulous.
Yes. Yeah. Okay then. Well, thanks very much. It's interesting to speak to a different forum for a change. You know, you can do a lot of wildlife talks to a lot of people, but this subject sort of straddles both of our worlds really. You know, one person's pest is another person's non-native invasive species. So, you know, we're all sort of looking at issues and problems. And in our particular case, this is problems for our native wildlife and how we solve those. So I hope that this will be of interest to you. There's a bit of a call out at the end for anybody that actually does get involved with mink. I know it's not something that most people would be dealing with on a day-to-day, but it does come up. So hopefully it will give you some sort of indication of what we're doing and how you can help us on our route. So let's just move along. Just a little bit of background to start off with. Water voles was the key thing that drove us to sort of look at mink as a species that was of concern. I mean, in the world as a whole, with the exception of habitat loss, non-native invasive species are the biggest risk to wildlife, native wildlife, that cause the most extinctions. And certainly in our country, we're not immune to that either. And over the last 20 or so years, there's been an awful lot of conservation effort put into trying to protect water voles, which were our fastest declining mammal. And a lot of it revolved around habitat work, but it was obvious that even with this intense amount of work and money and effort that we were all putting in, water voles were still declining. And the key reason for that really is is the mink. Mink are an invasive species. They came over from America for fur farming, and they soon started to escape into the wild and breed. And these feral populations started to rip through our watervole populations along with other wildlife. So we decided to have a look in more detail about what we were doing about this. We were trying to control mink. We'd been trapping mink for about 15 years at this stage, and Suffolk Wildlife Trust decided to do a resurvey and just work out what impact we'd actually had over that period of time. And it's quite clear that waterfoles had declined dramatically in that county. They were only occupying about half of their sites on our rivers. This was something of a recovery from earlier on, but basically we weren't getting any further than that. We'd caught 3,500 mink in Suffolk over that period of time, and they were still coming. There were mink being caught every year. And we still had mink activity on probably close to a fifth of our sites, and that's what we could detect. Sometimes mink are just there and you don't realise. So the waterfowl recovery as it was only there because of the intensity of the mink trapping that we were doing. So we had hundreds of people trapping mink, just trying to keep these numbers down. And then people started to get a bit tired of that, and mink numbers started to creep back, and they will return very quickly if you don't do that sort of level of trapping. So we set up as a region a charity called the Water Life Recovery Trust, so that we could cover all of the eastern region. So we're talking the main counties, Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk, along the seaboard, plus the neighbouring counties around Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, Middlesex. And the reason for that was we wanted to eradicate mink entirely. We couldn't keep this level of work going in the way that it was. It just wasn't possible for our organisations. There's no exit strategy here. You just have to carry on killing mink every single year. But what was changing was that we had new technology coming along, new techniques, all sorts of different things that would enable us to target this species, find out where they were, find out where they've come from even, and start to get on top of them, different ways of detecting them as well, which just weren't available in the early 2000s certainly when I started on this project. And also, we'd much rather trap out the population and not have them there than have this relentless death toll year on year on year. As a wildlife trust or any conservation organisation, obviously our remit is to protect wildlife. We're not really pest controllers, but we found ourselves in that kind of role here. And there is a precedent for this. Coypu were trapped out in the 1980s. In fact, there was a programme of trapping in the 60s as well, which trapped out the majority of the population, but they started to come back again. And in the 1980s, this was funded by government. And so it was a very effective culling programme, and using similar techniques to what we use for trapping mink. So there was an ability to actually take a non-native invasive out of our area, but obviously mink are slightly different species, so we do have to look at different techniques and options for them. I don't know if you can see that map. We started off with a core area of Suffolk and Norfolk. We decided we've got to clear part of it first and then gradually move out, because you cannot do this at that sort of scale everywhere at the same time. So that core area was chosen because it was easily defended along the coast. Mink will travel down coastal borodikes and along grazing marshes and things. They're not likely to be swimming long distances at sea, so it just makes it slightly easier. And the idea was to use paid staff to coordinate the project, but using a large number of volunteers. So basically a lot of landowners, gamekeepers, council, pest controllers, various other people that could help us out. We set up a network of smart traps across this area. So this is just under 6,000 square kilometres. So it's, I mean, it's a big area and it's quite complex because you've got the Norfolk Broads in there, you've got Suffolk Broads, you've got a number of river catchments and wetland areas. So it's quite a complex area to remove mink across. As I say, protected by that seaboard, and then, pardon me, a buffer zone of about 60 kilometres wide, you know, going across Essex, Cambridgeshire, into Hertfordshire, extending that trapping, but basically with the aim of keeping the core area safe from mink. The total area to start off with was about 22,000 square kilometres. This is much larger now. The project is expanding even further now. I think we cover somewhere in the region of a quarter to a third of England now. But it's a, you know, it has to be done at that scale if you're intending to eradicate a species rather than just keep numbers down. And this is how we've historically done it. We are using floating rafts on water bodies. Mink generally travel along water bodies. Certainly the females will set up their territories along streams, ditches, rivers, all of those sorts of freshwater habitats and the brackish waters along the coasts. We set a trap in there and it's got a sensor on the back which triggers when the door goes down, and at that point a text is sent to the person that needs to deal with it, and you can go out there as soon as that trap is triggered and deal with whatever is inside. We dispatch mink with an air rifle in the cage, and then we take the animal to Cambridge University for DNA analysis, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on. But non-target species, and we do get them, a lot of different things go into those mink traps. We just release them. So this is a non-lethal trap. It's a live capture trap, but with that text alert, it means that we can get out there as soon as a trap goes off, but we don't have to go there every day checking that trap just to see whether something's in there. We have a single database which is set up to log all of the captures and trap locations across the area. And that records an awful lot of information for us, because we don't just need to know where an animal's caught. We need some information about it, because really the animals we want to remove are the females. They're the ones that will breed, and then you'll have, you know, 6 to 13 young at the end of the breeding season to deal with as well. So we want to remove the females as early on as possible. But this also records how many hours that trap is running for. In the old days, you know, back in the early 2000s, we put traps out and people might be checking them, or they might take them out. We didn't know where the trap was operating. But now, because we've got this remote sensor on the back, we can tell exactly how long it's been going for. And then we can capture all the DNA information as well. So this is what we used to do early on in the project. I mean, we were still working at a very big scale, but all the information we would capture was how many mink have we caught. Now, that doesn't tell you a lot about a population. It tells you you've caught some mink, but if you've caught 10 mink in an area and you've got 100 mink out there, then actually you're not making much of an impact. If you've only got 11 mink out there, you've virtually wiped them out. So now, with our new techniques, we are able to measure how many mink we've caught, but also over what length of time those traps are operating to catch them. So this gives us catch per unit effort, basically the number of mink that we catch per 1,000 nights that a trap is operating. And as that goes down, we can tell exactly what's happening to the population, that the population numbers are being depressed, and we know we're having some sort of impact or success on that species. Now, where the DNA comes in is we start to be able to build a picture of the genetics of the animals and who they're related to, where they're likely to have been born, as opposed to where they've been caught. So you can see a map there that shows a red dot in the middle. That's where that animal was captured. And the genetics tell us that with almost, sort of a degree of certainty going out from the middle there, the darker the color, the more likely it is that that animal was born in that area, until you get to the gray where there's no genetic link at all with populations in that area. So you start to build up this picture of where you've caught an animal and where it was born. And that's important because we need to know whether that animal's bred in the area or whether it was an immigrant that traveled, 100 kilometers to get to that site before it was caught. So clearly this one was caught in the area where it was born, or sort of within, about 20 kilometers. This one caught out on the Norfolk East Coast, was actually born in Lincolnshire. So you've got a really good idea then that this animal is not an animal that's been born in your area where you're trying to trap them out. So that is absolutely groundbreaking for us because it allows us to understand whether we've actually wiped the population out or whether these are just sort of immigrants coming in. And we can even start to look at what types of familial links there are out there, so we can group them into different types and map them across a region and tell that we've got very clear clusters of genetically similar mink in certain areas. This shows us that actually mink are not moving as far as we thought they might be after breeding. There's certainly very obvious areas where you can actually observe certain types of mink, certain DNA types. And this gets more and more accurate with the more mink that we catch. So once we start getting mink from outside of our region, we start to be able to build up a picture of where those mink are and how they're linked to mink around them. We won't go into this too much, but the important thing here is just that we understand what is happening to that population. If we want to eradicate it, we have to know where these mink are coming from. So what happens once we get to 0 on our catch per unit effort? That basically means we're not catching mink in those traps at all. So, it doesn't matter how many thousand trap nights you have, you're not catching mink. And that kind of makes you think, well, that's it, job done, mink are eradicated. But of course, it's possible that mink are not every single mink is going into those traps. It's likely they will, but not utterly impossible that they could avoid them. So we start with other techniques as well. We're taking eDNA samples from the water. So this is basically environmental DNA. You don't have to actually have the animal there. You just take a water sample and filter it and then work out from the DNA in the water what animals have been around in that area. And that works, that works pretty well to detect animals. It's not perfect on its own, but it is a useful thing. Obviously, we use trail cameras a lot, so we can see what's moving around. So if a mink swims past a raft and doesn't go into it, we can pick it up. We've used scent dogs to track mink, and they're very effective as well. If there are mink in the area, they can pick them up. Sightings are very important to us. Mink get knocked down on the roads like other animals do, or they're seen in somebody's garden pond, or as with this photograph, crossing the road in a very orderly line. So looks like they're keeping their road safety good there. And then, of course, actually going out and surveying for them, which is what we do for a wide range of animals. But mink are particularly difficult to pick up in areas where we have the native polecat as well. Because polecat and mink footprints, I can tell you, are virtually identical. So we've been scaling this project up and up, trying to push mink away from the eastern region. And of course, with a large number of traps, if mink are traveling further because there aren't so many mink around, it's more likely they're going to get caught. Of course, there are issues, if a coordinator becomes unavailable or our network for our smart traps fails, because we're using, largely a specific supplier called Remoti to supply our smart traps. These are problems. So we always have secondary and even, you know, more responders for a trap, so that if a trap goes off, we know that if the first person isn't available, somebody else is there to go and check it. And we're also looking at alternative smart traps as well, so that we've got a wider coverage of traps. Project expands incredibly quickly, so captures do drop in the core area once you start this sort of project. And the problem that we've had is that actually we're catching large numbers of water vole now. You know, that's a good problem to have when you're doing a water vole recovery project, but it's a pain to have to keep going out and releasing the same water vole just because it keeps going into the blessed trap. So we've actually had to start looking at water vole excluders to try to stop them getting in and stop this bycatch. And largely this works. It's just like a little wall around the tunnel entrance, and water voles don't tend to bother to climb over it, but the mink still do. They seem quite happy to do so. So again, just trying to exclude those non-target species. And also we do need to think big with these projects, because we can trap out, you know, a large area, but if we've still got mink coming in from the outside of that area, then that's a real problem. But we did announce earlier this month that we have eradicated breeding mink across that original core zone. So that's 5,800 square kilometres. And this is where we really must build the momentum to spread this project even further. This is the sort of danger time, really. We don't want mink coming back into that area. So we've mapped out where our mink captures are happening at the moment, and you can see that largely they're happening in this buffer area. These counties like Lincolnshire, Northants, Cambridgeshire, Essex, all the way around. We've got a couple of mink that were caught in the past year in the core zone. And I say caught, one of them was washed up dead on the shore of the Wash. That's the blue dot up there. And the other one was a male, which we are analysing, but we think it's a wandering male that managed to somehow elude the traps until it got that far. But other than that, nothing in that area at all. You know, and as I said earlier on, 3,500 mink caught in Suffolk alone in that trapping period that we were looking at before. So I'll wrap up there. We do need as many records of mink as possible, and this can be anywhere in the mainland UK, because this is a project that we intend to spread across the whole of mainland GB and try and eradicate mink from GB. If you go onto the Waterlife Recovery Trust website, it's easy just to add a record. So if you've been asked to specifically catch a mink, or for a local council or something like that, we need that record as much as any other, and any sightings as well. So please do get in touch. I put this slide up not so that you can read it now, but just for the benefit of the recording afterwards. But this sort of summarises what has happened since 2019, when we started down this route of forming the Waterlife Recovery Trust. And the steering group consists of all sorts of organisations. It's not just conservation organisations. We've got BASC on there, representing the gamekeepers. We have local authorities, and you know, this is a wide-ranging partnership, and that's the only way that we can really do this sort of work. So thank you all for listening. I hope you have got some things to take away from there, and please do get in touch with us if you need to. Thanks a lot.
Fabulous, thank you, Darren. That was great. We've got 3 questions popped up in the Q&A section. So okay. Ian here says, are there any issues with trap aversion in mink, and how does that affect your interpretation of data?
Yeah, so some mink are harder to get into a trap than others, but what we've been having a lot of success with is mink lure. So this is when we catch mink, we actually extract the horrendously smelly substance from the anal gland, pop it onto cigarette filters, and then that goes into the traps to actually act as a lure. And we've noticed a very big uptake in mink going into traps that have the lure, as opposed to ones that are set nearby without lure. And we notice this as well if we catch a mink in a cage. We never clean the cage out. We leave the scent of the mink on there, and mink will go back in. And you sometimes catch 3 or 4, within a couple of days of each other, just because the smell of the mink is in there. So yeah, there are ways to lure them in. We don't tend to use food baits. They just go off. They're horrendous, and they don't seem to be any better than just a plain trap.
Yeah. How long does that scent last for, out of interest?
Oh, weeks and weeks. Yeah, I mean, we will replace them, every 2 or 3 months, I guess. Yeah, it will gradually go, but they're very volatile, these scents. And although we won't actually be able to smell them after a couple of weeks, the mink still can.
Yeah, great. It's I was going to ask whose job it is to extract that.
Yeah, at the moment there are 2 very able people doing that. It's not a pleasant process.
Yeah, I imagine it would.
Wear gloves.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, you've answered it already and just followed up with what bait do you find most effective in the traps? But like you said, you don't use baits.
Yeah, we've rarely used bait, to be honest, because mink are very inquisitive and they will go into traps. Sometimes we will set them in the bank and just disguise them to look a bit like a rabbit burrow or something, and they just go in. They don't really need a lot of incentive. But as I say, that the bait lure seems to work very well. It does seem to double our chances of getting the mink into it straight away.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Gary's just made a comment rather than a question that, unfortunately, like you said, unless the whole of the UK is on board with this, you're wasting, well, I say wasting your time, it makes things trickier, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've had incredible uptake across the area of the sort of eastern seaboard so far, and we're also spreading up into Northumberland, Cumbria, areas like that. It is important that this is coordinated as a GB project. So, but you have to start somewhere, and you have to prove that the concept will work. So if we can make it work in East Anglia, that doesn't mean that that is going to eradicate mink across the GB, but it gives us an idea that actually this is achievable now, which we couldn't do even 5 years ago. We just didn't have the ability to do this, but we do now, and this pilot is proving it. Somebody asked about where do you get the lure. We do it ourselves basically at the moment from the mink that we capture. So I mean, you can literally squeeze it out of the rear end onto these cigarette filters, and then you just pop them into a sealed container. But we are actually trying at the moment to develop an artificial lure. So if that becomes available, that will make things a lot easier, because the trouble for people in Suffolk and Norfolk is that there are no mink left, so they can't get any more lure unless we catch them outside in the buffer zone and then do that. But yeah, we do supply it amongst ourselves.
Yeah, so yeah, a couple of people are mentioning on the scent side, so the question's a bit further down, but I'll cover them while we're on the subject. But yeah, if someone wanted to get hold of some scent themselves, they better contact someone or you guys, or?
I mean, it is a bit tricky, because at the moment we're obviously, because we've eradicated so many mink, we are having to supply a larger area with fewer mink that we're catching. So we're reserving the lure for the actual project area that's expanding at the moment. So we can't really act as a supplier right now. But however, if you wanted to get in contact with Waterlife Recovery Trust and say, look, I've got a real reason that I need to do this, it might be that we could free up, a packet of, 5 or 6 lures or something like that. It's worth getting in contact with us, just to ask the question and at least be on our radar that it would be useful for you. So yeah, just get in touch afterwards.
Great. When you pop off of this session, if you can put any contact details in the chat section for people to, an email or something they
We
can.
do it all through the website. It's very straightforward. It's contacts on there, so it's very easy for you to get hold of our central team, and then they can talk to whichever organisation works in your area.
Great. So Mark here says, Jeffrey seemed a little slow in encouraging the reintroduction of otter and beaver. Surely this would help address the balance and partially help answering, Gary's concerns.
Sorry, do you mean if we have otter and beaver, they'll drive me out?
Reintroduction of the otter and beavers, maybe that would help to balance the whole the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly the beavers would help balance the habitat. They're amazing at creating those complex habitats that are harder for mink to operate in and wipe out water voles and other animals. Otters don't appear to have made any impact at all on mink populations in the eastern region, and otters have recovered across our region now. But we will film otters coming out of an underground halt and mink coming straight in after them, or we used to find the signs of otters and mink on the same rafts as well. Polecat is seeming to make a bit of an impact because they're much more similar animals and they're feeding on the same sorts of things. But apart from the fact that otters and mink swim, really they're not after the same food. Not in any big way,
Yeah. Okay, great. There's a few questions about the traps that you're using. So are you able to give details on the sensors that you use for the traps?
Yeah. I mean, if you're interested, then what I'll do is I'll give you a link, Natalie, and then that can be forwarded to anybody. But at the moment we use a system called Remote. The only thing is that we're using so many of them that they're struggling to manufacture enough to keep up with our demand. But we are looking at alternatives as well. But yeah, Remote are the one that we use because they have a roaming signal. There's not many places you put them where that you can't get a signal to send the text.
Great. Yeah, there's a few. We're certainly getting into the electronic side of things in all manner of pest control, but yeah, certainly trapping and things like that, and monitoring, what's going on in the world of the things that we do is certainly becoming more at the forefront. So yeah,
I mean, Remote could be used with other traps as well. They're not attached to the trap. You set them up. So, but for us, it's just so convenient to have a text sent to us when the trap goes off. Because if you're looking after 15 traps on a catchment, that may be a sort of 80-mile round journey. You don't really want to be having to check them every single day. So this is why we've been able to scale this up in such a short period of time. We couldn't have done this before those remote sensors.
No, it would have been a lot trickier to do. So I've got Robert here asking, mink are using old beaver lodges to breed in our river. That's a bit of a comment there. They're a bit of an interesting.
They will breed. They will use anything. So any pile of sticks, they'll clear out a rabbit warren and then use that. They will use anywhere, and they're quite small. They're able to get through, reasonable sized chicken mesh. They can get into anywhere. So yeah, they will be all over the place.
Yeah, take advantage of what they can.
Yeah, they're very resourceful animals.
Yeah, great. I think you might have covered this in the presentation, but just to go over it again. So have the number of water voles increased due to the mink eradication? Yeah,
so the eastern region is the only region in the UK at the moment with an expanding water vole population. So we actually had to try to avoid catching water voles because they were setting the traps off so regularly in the core area. So that is good to see. There is a national water vole database and a monitoring program. So we're going to be using any data we can to show the response of water voles to the action of removing the mink. But mink predate an awful lot of species. They're terrible on kingfishers, go right into the burrows and take them out. And waterfowl, anything like moorhens or coots, anything that's nesting by the water. So it should have a big effect on all sorts of wildlife that normally would live along the waterside.
What do you get? Did you get like a public reaction, or what's the perception from the public in terms of, catching, all these mink? I don't know, did you get negative interactions from them?
I think we've had so little negative reaction because we've taken pains to explain that this is a non-native species, would never have been able to get to the UK by its own means, and so it's completely overbalanced the ecosystems. So our waterfowl are not adapted to survive the predation of mink, whereas waterfowl get eaten by all sorts of things. They'll get eaten by kestrels, marsh harriers, otters, pike, stoats, everything's after waterfowls. But they've adapted to expect that predation, and they go into their burrows and they're safe. But mink track them into the burrows underwater, which is the difference between any other animal. There's no other animal that is so effective at killing waterfowls as a mink.
Like the SAS of the animal kingdom.
Yeah, so I think people realise that they're not meant to be here, and that they are causing problems for a wide range of wildlife that we all love. And that we either accept that we'll have mink and none of the other species, or we get rid of mink and we return our ecosystem to somewhere, well, not approaching normal. There's no normal ecosystem in Britain, but getting closer to it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good. I mean, we obviously, public perception wise, education is obviously, and being able to explain the reasons why we're doing something is how you can improve that public perception.
We did a survey in the Wildlife Trust in Durham of public perceptions. We found there was quite a difference between rural and urban populations, but by and large, the biggest reaction was complete apathy. I don't actually know what a mink is or a waterfowl. I don't really care. But amongst the people that did know what these animals were, the main reaction was that removing the mink has to be done humanely. We would support if it's done humanely. They wouldn't support it if we started to catch, all sorts of things in, barbaric ways and drown them and things like that. So it's very important for us to be able to show that we are being as humane as possible in our treatment of these animals, even if we do, have to dispatch them at the end. Yeah, absolutely. Just another question about the scent. Everyone likes talking about the scent. Is it male or female? You wouldn't if you had to deal with it. I know, that's it. We like the gross things, I think, don't we? Is it the male or the female that you extract the scent from, or does it not matter? It can come from both. There's the potential that you might discourage mink, at certain times of the year. If there's a certain part of the breeding cycle, it might for a few weeks be not the best thing to do, but by and large, having that lure in there, whether it's male or female, it just seems to work for the majority of the time, so we get a lot of benefit from it. Yeah, great. I mean, I had a couple of I suppose the dispatching of the mink, in terms of how it's gone about. I don't want to get too graphic or anything, but it was like you said, it's always got to be humane and quick. And we use an air rifle generally. Can use certain air pistols that are very high powered with steel shot, not lead shot, but the majority is as an air rifle in the cage itself. Cage is just upended until the animal becomes calm, and then it's one shot, and then a second just to make sure, but it's always done with one shot. Do you follow any particular standards when it comes, because obviously we have to dispatch, whether it's squirrels or rats and so on and so forth, and obviously it's always humane and quick, but I don't know, do you follow any particular guidance on how to do that? We have all the guidance that we can supply guidance as well, but it's based on the courses that BASC run. So British Association for Shooting and Conservation run a specific mink course, and they go through all the safety aspects and how to maintain your air rifle and how to dispatch and everything like that. So that's basically the best guidance we've got as far as that goes. Okay, great.
Fabulous. Well, that perfectly brings us to yeah, 30 seconds or so before the end. Oh no, 10:15. I think we've done a good job there. Thank you so much, Darren.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and thanks
really
for all the questions. Yes, I didn't
people
know
getting
how this would
questions
go
in.
down.
It's always a good indication of that, their interest, and yeah, really, really great to have you, and hopefully you'll come back again soon. So yeah, thank you for that, Darren.
Thank you. Okay then.
Right.
Bye.
Take care.